allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Find a seat if you can. All right, again, good evening, everyone. All city council members are present this evening. And I'll begin with item number 3, which are some mayor comments, some updates on what's been going on in the city the last couple of weeks. So, big success at the Lumley Fire Department Pancake Breakfast on Sunday, April 23rd. Choice of pancakes or French toast. A lot of you there in the community and a lot of council members there. It was a great event. Firefighters put on a great breakfast as always. There's around 1,380 attendees. So that is a record attendance according to records we have going back to since the beginning of time or something like that. But, a lot of attendees, so that was great. Pretty good weather for that, and fun to see families out, kids ringing sirens on fire trucks and things along those lines. So great attendance. Thanks to all community members that came out for that. That was a great event. Just a few updates on what I've been up to over the last week or two. This morning, Congressman Dean Phillips, who's our representative of Congress for our area, held a breakfast with mayors, which he typically does 3 or 4 times a year. I was present at that, as well as several other mayors from communities served by Congressman Phillips, and gave some updates about what he's been doing in Washington for his cities. And there's 3 different cities in our really communities here that are suffering from water quality issues, and he is working on acquiring funding at the federal level for their projects to assist with poor water quality in a few cities. Minnetonka Beach, Mound are examples of that. So the mayors from those cities were very, very appreciative of his efforts there. And as well, just gave some other updates about what is going on in Washington, and in some cases things representing or things that are affecting Minneapolis, Minnesota, or the suburban areas that he serves. So great updates from him. He does a good job representing our communities and really keeping the mayors of the communities up to date on what's going on. So good event there. Other than that, starting to warm up outside, and it seemed good to see more people outside enjoying the weather and that sort of thing. So a few updates there. We'll talk more about some other updates when it comes to some fire topics on the agenda here this evening. So with that, I'll move on to item number 4, which is to approve tonight's agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
I'll second that. Motion and second. Any further discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Item 5 is the consent agenda. Kind of a short consent agenda this evening, just items A through D. So,
I'll make a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda.
and I'll second that. Okay, motion and a second. Thanks for updating your agenda. Find that out.
It's been a busy
Choice.
evening.
Yes. All right, motion and second. Any further discussion on the consent agenda? Any questions for staff? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Item 6 is open correspondence. Open correspondence is an item on the agenda during which the public may address the city council. No formal action is taken by the city council, and comments shall be limited to 5 minutes or less. Anyone wish to approach the council tonight, and if so, please state your name and address. Okay.
Honorable Mayor, members of the council, Brian Miller, 295 Lakeview Avenue. It's been a rather tumultuous year or so in our community, and I want to thank the mayor and council for being level-headed all along the way. I really appreciate having witnessed all of you spend your meetings exhibiting careful deliberations on all topics brought before you, including our fire department. And you have done so in complete transparency during open meetings for all of us to see and hear. And this has been extremely helpful in keeping the citizens of our community educated on what exactly is going on, especially with our fire department. It's truly been a joy to watch all of you debate any given topic in your meetings, and you appear to appreciate and respect each other's views on any given topic. That makes for a highly productive and effective local government, In fact, I think if you look up local government in Wikipedia, there's a picture of you guys. And of course, I always appreciate the hard work of our city staff, Jeanette, Scott, Amanda, and Sean. And that's all I have. Not a 60-page dissertation this time.
Great.
Thank you.
Brian, appreciate that. Yes, sir.
Marty Schneider, 1176 West Wayzata Boulevard, Long Lake. For the moment, I'm wearing my Chamber of Commerce hat. So just wanted to update you. We had our spring meeting a couple of weeks ago, the Chamber did, and we have a tentative date of July 22nd for Buckhorn Days. That's a Saturday. Of note, we have already, under contract, hired the Shockwaves Water Ski Show. They were here, as some of you might remember, 2 years ago in 2021. We were talking about fireworks as well, having 3 or 4 bands, et cetera, et cetera. So it's been building quite well, but we look for your support, especially in coordinating a bit with Wayzata PD. Last year, we were kind of under the assumption that things would sort of happen the way they did in the past. Obviously, there was a change in leadership at Wayzata PD, and so maybe the Chamber could reach out, Mayor Charlie, to you or some to help us kind of coordinate a little bit better. That would be true for the August 12th Corn Day Parade that will be helping with regarding St. George. That's a Saturday again. Those are things that just last year, Orno didn't know it was happening, et cetera, we all made it work, but wanted to reach out to you, let you know. Other items may be more pertinent to growth within the city. We know that in the next year, we're probably going to experience maybe a 20% population growth with the projects around us. And the Long Lake Council would like to talk to council and EDA about bringing back what we remember back in 2016, 2017 called Open to Business. Open to Business is an initiative through the county where local business entities can integrate with this, shall we say, initiative, and get free counseling services, consultant services, whether it be legal, marketing, inventory management, bookkeeping, whatever. I was chatting with Mayor Kathy Martin Sunday at the pancake breakfast, and they just initiated that in Medina a couple of months ago. It used to be an expense, and now it's a donation by the city, but the city has to kind of act as the intermediary to create that pipeline for the community. So we're looking forward to helping local businesses, I would say, really integrate with the new residents as well as existing residents to kind of, foster an understanding of, hey, here's what's going on in Long Lake business-wise. We hear a lot, about wanting to grow our population to help business, vice versa. So, that's coming down the road. And, I would say, I think Lynn James, Vice President of the bank, has already reached out to Jeanette about trying to work through our application for Buckhorn Days in this case, and we'll try to be a bit timely so that we have this all done, well in advance, and everything will organize. Thank you.
Great.
Appreciate it.
Commissioner. As for open correspondence, let's see, another volunteer.
Another volunteer, I don't know about that. I'm not gonna turn my back on you, I apologize.
You might have to.
Tell us who you are.
Never been
There you
accused
go.
of meeting a weapon. Todd Bickmer, 1070 Old Long Lake Road. Some of you have heard me, one, I'm addressing the fire department issues that we're having in the community in the local area. I am a retired firefighter paramedic. Worked on both the hazardous materials team, not in the area from the West Coast, 27 years, retired now. Some of you have heard the story before when I've said it, but I want to say it again. There was a time in my career when I was young, and I was approached by my chief, who I have a lot of respect for. He approached all of the lieutenants together, the people who lead the day-to-day operations. We had had a couple of, let's call them slip-ups, let's call them unprofessional events that occurred, and he came in to speak to us about that. But he started it really oddly, really chipper. He asked us a bunch of questions. He asked if anybody was having work done on their house. He asked if anybody was having any remodeling done on their house or large projects. And let me address, is anybody having any work done on the house? Somebody is right now. Anybody? You are? A contractor involved? Okay. How'd you find the contractor?
Google is my friend.
Google is your friend. Look to Google reviews, all right?
Yes.
Anybody else? Like you just had a big driveway project on.
That's true.
How'd you find that contractor?
My neighbor found it for us.
Neighbor found him? So you got a recommendation from someone? Okay. So Google reviews, recommendations, Angie's List, newspaper, however, you reach out and find somebody. It's a big project, it's important, it's gonna cost a lot of money. You do your research in it. What happens when you call 911? You get what you get, right? Right? So that's about the point of the conversation where my chief's tone changed. And he looked at everybody in the room and he said, how dare you be less than the absolute best? How dare you not know how your equipment works? How dare you not be ready to go? Wearing the right equipment that's checked out, certified, appropriately worn, appropriately used. People don't get to bid on 911. They don't get to go and check Angie's List or ask a friend or, hey, was that a good paramedic who treated your heart attack? Because I might want a different one in a few more hours. No, you only get what you get when you call 911. And that is the most important time ever. So what is Long Lake doing right now? And what is Orno doing right now? They're bidding for us. They're checking Craigslist for us. They're checking Angie's List. They're asking for recommendations. They're trying to get their crews ready when we have the most important problem, or the crisis in it, when we have the breech birth, or the car wreck, or the child hit by a car, or the structure fire, or the school shooting. Those people who show up in this area volunteer their time, volunteer their energy, they leave their families, they put themselves in danger, they put themselves on the line of injury. It's our job, it's your job, it's Orno's job, it's Orno's mayor's job to provide them with the tool, the resources, and the equipment to do 100%. So we don't have to bid, we don't have to look for recommendations. We know who shows up, is ready to go. So what's my ask? We're in a dilemma. We're going back and forth. We've got letters, we've got arguments, we've got speeches, we've got open houses, or we don't have open houses. We need to get together on the same page and do what's the best for the communities. All the communities, from Wayzata, Maple Plain, Long Lake, Orno, surrounding communities. We need to put the tools in the job, or the tools in the hands of the people who are professional and can do it right. So what's my ask? Mediation of some nature, whether it be mayors, whether it be representatives, with a neutral party mediator to come together. I think Orno knows they can't do this on their own. No one's starting a fire department. No one's buying a station, engines, apparatus, boats, trucks, equipment. They're not. It's not feasible, it's not profit. The money's not there, and if we are, we're repeating the process. So let's get together. There's 2 years left in this contract. Let's look at the contract and decide how we rewrite this, manipulate this, change this to better serve everyone. Because when a bell goes off, it's not just Long Lake or Orno or Wayzata or Maple Plain. It's all of us combined. We have to work together. Okay?
I'm not gonna get my back to you either. That was nice. interesting thing is I was on the Long Lake Council when we built this place. And so, because we used to be in a motorhome. Mobile home.
Wasn't a motor.
It was a mobile home. It was, so I was involved with Tim and myself and other people. I think this is what we built, and it's a wonderful place. My name is Dave Pearson, and I'm from Orono, and I've lived in Orono now for 17 years, and I lived in Long Lake for 9, and had the honor to be part of the city council, which not only did this, but we went through the whole building the fire station and getting that contract written, and I always looked at Orono and Long Lake as a community. Two separate cities, but every time when I was on the council, we were kind of working with letting Orono know and us letting them, we kind of worked together. And that's how I look at this fire department, because, I guess it was in existence for 100 years. It's been in existence for 100 years. And I had never heard a complaint, not one complaint. And I actually asked the chief over there if he had any complaints, and he said virtually none. And I said, well, that's the community aspect of what we should be doing with this fire department. And what was your name again? Todd. Now, to Tom's point,
Todd.
that's what I said, Todd. And we need to get together and to solve this problem. I got involved because on the fire department, I always feel that the citizens should have a say in what is done in their community. Yes, you can take care of the plumbing and stuff like that, but when you come with a $5, $6, $7 million deal, the council owes the community the opportunity to hear what they're planning. As we know in Orono, that mayor does, and that council does not want to do that. And that has gotten my attention because it's our money. And when you're doing a project like that, you want to know why, the costs, and what the alternatives are. So I presented it at a public hearing, a public meeting, where we only get 3 minutes, by the way, and basically said, you need to have the town hall like you had here in Long Lake. Well, they adamantly refused to do that. And I just, it's hard for me to believe that they don't want to let us know. And they, one of the comments I heard over there was that, well, we have our meetings, if anyone's interested, they'll come to the meeting. Okay, and that's all, in a certain person's mind, that's all that needs to happen. Well, that's not what needs to happen. The job is for the council to get people involved in the program. And I just think that's something, that we all want to do, is get that together. At the last breakfast, I went with him to the mayor's breakfast, and I said to him, I just really think you're failing your fiduciary responsibility to your citizens and actually the Long Lake too, because they had no idea what costs are. And he wouldn't tell me why they were doing it, and they wouldn't tell me what the costs were, and what other alternatives do they have to offer us. So I tried to get them to come together on this fiduciary responsibility, because you're spending our money, and we should have an opportunity to talk about what we're doing and what other options are, etc. So I guess that's the message I have, and I'm sure you realize it, and I'm trying to get the Orono Council to realize it, but fiduciary responsibility is called trust, and that's what we, and we had that in the 17 or whatever, 26 years I've been there, we had trust between the two councils. And we fought, there's no question. We fought over that fire station. I can't tell you about where it is and what we're gonna put in there. Mr. Jabor and I got just nose to nose, and we turned out to be pretty good friends, because it came out the way it was supposed to come out. So I don't want to take any more of your time, but I want to back up what Todd says, is that the idea is mediation, and there's no reason that these two cities cannot get together, both financially and ethically. So that's it, that's all I got.
Anyone else? And we should set the priority for that over there, because I think there's a camera. I think we get in trouble with the cable TV guy, but I think camera is focused on the center of the podium there, so appreciate some flexibility on that. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Jim Elder, 195 South Brown Road, Orono, and I'm a retired firefighter. And I have been battling this battle along with you for several years. The battle's been going on for over 3, and you knew 3 years ago that Orono was going to not renew the agreement. I wish Orono were more open, and I wish Orono had a public hearing as you did. And I have been endeavoring first to persuade them to do that. I agree with Brian's compliments of this council. I think you've been transparent, you've shown fairly good governance, and I think you have done your very best to move this ball forward. But there's been very little progress to date. At this point, I would have hoped that you were closing that gap between you with substantive negotiations. And in my personal opinion, your letter alleging 4 breaches of contract did not move the ball an inch. I know you're upset. I know you're dealing with a somewhat difficult mayor, but you also have the responsibility to try to close this gap, and I don't think this threat of lawsuits is going to do it. So I am scolding you. It's a childish term, but I'm sorry. I'm disappointed in you. I wanted something more from you to close this gap, and this lawsuit threatening breach of contract isn't going to do it. Public safety and respect must be met here. And you have a duty to try to move this ball. And I don't envy you, but you got to try to do it. I'm going to try to help you, but your threat of lawsuit is going to do it. So keep at it.
Jim? No, it's okay.
Hi, I'm Barbara Schmidt, 50 Landmark Drive in Orono. I want to say thank you to all of you up here, because this is the only place where we feel like we can get up and speak without being chastised. So thank you very much for allowing us to get up and speak. I really appreciate it. I want to start out by saying that there have been so many angry people in our communities right now. Sides have been taken and social unrest continues to mount. There are 3 active civil lawsuits and 2 active federal lawsuits against the city of Orono that I know of at the moment. There have been numerous criminal complaints to the Hennepin County Sheriff and to the State Auditor Julie Blaha regarding the Orono city officials and the city of Orono. Just for reference, I checked surrounding cities to see if there's a similar situation regarding active civil lawsuits. City of Medina, 0. City of Wayzata, 1. City of Mound, 1. City of Minnetonka Beach, 0. City of Long Lake, 0. In total, the city of Orono has more open civil lawsuits pending than our sister cities combined. This needs to change, and it needs to really change. Not only is this litigation taking time, thereby dollars of our taxpayers to litigate, the ill will that is driving this is spinning out of control. Apparently, the all-or-nothing approach that the city of Orono is employing, not only regarding the Long Lake Fire Department, but also land use and giveaways to city officials, is not well received by the public. To be clear, there's nothing wrong with our fire services as is, and any negative commentary about the past is also the responsibility of City of Orono, as well as Long Lake. It is time for Orono to realize that option A, the partnership model offered from the City of Long Lake, is the most appropriate fiscally for the taxpayers of Orono and their surrounding sister cities. There is no reason to spend millions and millions of dollars on a new Orono Fire Department that will not improve Orono's fire service. The prudent path forward, supported by national data, far and away, is a joint fire district with an independent new fire board. What do the citizens of Orono want for their fire service? It's a question that has not been asked. It is past time for the Orono City Council to survey the citizens of Orono so that an honest consensus of taxpayers can be brought forth in transparency to the public. Both a citizen survey and a joint fire district would bring us all back to the table, together. Orono should be collaborative and work with the City of Long Lake instead of dividing our community and threatening our public safety needs. It's time to consider and implement mediation. We want our communities to heal together, all of us. If the City of Orono will not perform a scientific citywide survey, which is 5 years past due, then the citizens of Orono and Long Lake should form a balanced citizen review committee. The citizens of Orono and Long Lake should also form a fire district review committee as well. We can do it together without the city, and we should. Look at all these people here tonight. We could work together right now, and we should be. We shouldn't be waiting for them to give us permission. These groups could ask the City of Orono to meet with a neutral, professional third party to develop a path forward that will help both Orono City Council and the surrounding community make positive changes. We want a whole Orono that is friendly and collaborative with our sister cities. We want everyone at the table. We want our public land back and preserved. We want accountability and transparency. We do not want our firefighters caught in the middle of promises made and not shared with nor condoned by the public. We can do this together. Together we are better. Together we are transparent with each other and working toward a better future. Thank you.
Anyone else before we correspondence?
Sure.
Sir.
I'd like to speak for a quick minute. Jane Idard, 1386 West Point Road, Orono, Minnesota. But as you all know, Long Lake, Orono, to me, it's all the same thing. I mean, this community to me is one big community, and I'm very frustrated by what's gone on. I understand the gentleman back here speaking a few minutes ago, stating that you have to find a better way. You have to keep trying to work with Orono. But I'm the one person who can tell you specifically that there is no working with Orono. When their minds are made up, they're going to do what they're going to do. And it's up to you to respond in such a fashion as to force a hand or to move forward, because otherwise there is no moving forward. And I actually see the Long Lake Council doing that. Now, there's something that hasn't been talked about here much, and it's something I want everyone to think about. I've called Orono and Long Lake brothers, big brother and little brother. But I want to change that a little bit tonight, and I want to pretend that Orono and Long Lake are married. Because it very well could be. We are married in many ways. Now, what happens when a married couple wants to divorce? Especially when they have kids. Who suffers? It ends up being the kids. And while Orono's sitting here pushing this divorce right now, the people I see suffering are the fire department, the firemen. That's what I see. These people are caught in the middle of this pulling and angst as if kids in a divorce. And it's not fair to the firemen, and as our gentleman Todd back here said, okay, it's going to affect the service. And that's what's going on now. And I think that's wrong-headed. I think it's wrong for the community. And I think there's a certain city council up on the other side of town that really needs to consider the people who are suffering from their choices. Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, Janie Delaney, 1315 Woodhill Avenue. And I want to say that I'm physically in the middle of this almost every day because I run the donation garden between Holbrook on Orono City property and on the other side of the fire department. So I look at it every single day, and I will be shortly starting next week. And I think the thing that's so disturbing about the Orono Long Lake situation is we have volunteers at the garden from both cities, and it's a community thing. And Orono just doesn't see community as, they call the garden a temporary location for it. They want, so I think they don't see the possibilities of like combining that piece of property with Holbrook and doing something for the whole community. It's disturbing at best. And I just wanted to introduce myself because your Public Works Department has been so good to us. They're there and they turn the water on and off and they help us and they haul dirt for us, and so we're very appreciative of that. Just wanted to introduce myself and stop by the garden.
Great, thank you, Jeannie. Appreciate that. Okay, anyone else for open correspondence?
Can I have 1 second with my other hat, Mayor Charlie? So, Marty Schneider again, 1176 West Wayzata Boulevard, and I just felt compelled to offer a little counterpoint. I have great respect for Jim, spoken with Jim, and I've been following this now for dating back when I was mayor, probably back to 2016, when we've had threats, contract disputes, and I really want to applaud you. I don't want to scold you, because I feel, knowing all the history and taking the time to understand the history, especially over the last year, what I understand factually is members of the Fire Commission, members of the negotiating team, Mayor Charlie, Councilman Diva, have spent countless hours reaching out to their counterparts at Orono and making every effort to not take the step of having to procure appropriate legal representation. I don't see it as threatening, I think it's appropriate. So I just wanted to thank you for that on behalf of the community. I had the good fortune of meeting Chief Mike this past Sunday. I firmly believe that was another positive step that the council took to move forward, to, again, per my neighbor Todd, focus on what's important right now for the community, to rebuild maybe the attitude within the firefighting ranks and focus on public safety, while you on the council level, along with your Orono counterparts, figure out what's best. But I feel that anybody who would take some hours of time to understand all of the efforts that you all have been putting in and trying to reach out to Orono would certainly leave with a sense of gratitude. And I can tell you, I would not have been the right person to do this now, because I would have taken, as many of you know who I've spoken with, a much more hard stance early on. And I think by being more conciliatory over the last 10 months or so, it's brought us to this, but I think it's brought us to a closer possibility of finding a resolution. So again, very respectful to Jim, unquestionably respect everything he's done for our community as a firefighter and as a community member, but I again felt compelled to take another few minutes just to offer a little counterpoint to that, so thank you.
Thank you, Marty. Okay, that brings us to the end of open correspondence. With that, we'll move on to item number 7, which is to receive and accept the 2022 audited financial report. Someone for Tyler, right? Good to see you again, Tyler.
Yeah, thanks for having me tonight. I'm gonna actually use this. You can see that okay? That works?
I can zoom in a little.
I'm gonna go with that. So my name is Tyler C. I'm an audit manager at Abdo, and I'm gonna present the 2022 financial statement audit. So what I'll be going over tonight is first we're gonna start with the audit results for 2022. I'll then move into the financial information from there. So starting with the general fund, moving on to the other governmental funds, and then enterprise funds, and then capping it off with what we like to call key performance indicators. So first of all, our responsibility as auditors is to issue an opinion on the city's financial statements. We are issuing an unmodified opinion on the financial statements, which is a clean audit opinion. During our audit, we also do some testing on Minnesota legal compliance, so around state statutes. And we also have no instances of non-compliance in this year's audit. So clean audit opinion and also no legal compliance issues to note. Now we do issue audit findings for internal controls. If you've seen this presentation before, these findings will be familiar to you. Preparation of financial statements and limited segregation of duties are the city's 2 audit findings this year. Basically just meaning that we as your auditors are not only engaged to perform the audit, but we also draft the financial statements. Technically that's an internal control issue because financial statements are management's responsibility. And then limited segregation of duties is just due to the limited staff on hand performing the accounting functions. So those are the 2 audit findings, 2 most common audit findings for a city of your size, and also a recurring audit findings for lending. We also would just quickly recap last year's audit findings and kind of the changes year over year. So as you can see, we did have those same 2 internal control findings last year. Last year, we actually did also have the legal compliance finding for collateral coverage on your deposits, but that issue has been fixed in 2022, so no finding this year for that. So moving into the financial information. So first of all, we're looking at the general fund unrestricted fund balance in comparison to the budget, as well as the city's fund balance policy. So this line here is the city's budget from 2020 to 2023. The number is about 1.3 million there. Then the city's fund balance policy is about 50%, or is 50% of your following year's budget. And then this line here is the city's fund balance. So there was a substantial decrease this year, but that was due to a transfer out to the capital project fund to fund future projects. So your fund balance is still at 75% of 2023's budget, so that's meeting and exceeding that fund balance policy. Now here we're looking at the general fund budget to actual results. So on the left here, you're going to see the final budget for 2022. In the middle, you're going to see the actual results. And on the right, you're going to see the variance with that final budget. Zooming would be good, yeah. Probably should have gone with the computer, but. So the revenues overall were over budget by about $700,000 this year. 2 main reasons for, really 1 main reason for that is all the development activity this year. So a lot of building permit revenue. And then also activity related to escrows, which is also related to that development. From my accounting perspective, we do recognize that as revenue as well as expense. So it's kind of matching revenue and expense related to that activity. So that's kind of the reason for the revenue variance. The expenses also were over budget, but that was actually also due to the development and specifically the escrow related activity with that development. Again, from an accounting perspective, we recognize that as expense and matching revenue in the year. But besides that activity, all the departments were pretty much under budget this year for 2022. So overall, the revenues were $500,000 over expense. This large transfer out is going to the capital fund, that $1.3 million amount. And then at the end of the year, that $1 million amount there is the ending fund balance in the general fund. And now looking at general fund revenues and expenditures by type. Last 3 fiscal years here, first of all, we're looking at revenue. So we're looking at property taxes, charges for services, intergovernmental, and other. All the jumps you'll see in 2022 from 2021 is due to that development activity again, so the building permit fees and stuff like that. Then here we're looking at expenditures by department from 2020 to 2022. So we got general government, public safety, public works, capital outlay, and other. The large increase here in other is that transfer out again into the capital fund. And then that public works jump is the escrow related expenditures for development activity. Otherwise, pretty consistent year over year. All right, now looking at, we have a slide here on the special revenue funds. So the city's fire department fund, as well as two non-major special revenue funds, your EDA as well as the charitable donation fund. All in all, the special revenue funds increased about $35,000 in fund balance year over year. And then slide here on the fire department fund for the city. Again, we're looking at a budget to actual here, so your final budget here, actual results here, and the variance of that final budget on the right. So revenue is very comparable to budget. They've come in a little bit under budget, but overall very comparable in total. Expenditures came in overall about $30,000 below budget. If we look at it from an operating versus capital perspective, the operating activity was above budget due to payroll and all of those kind of things. And then the capital related expenditures were well below budget. So that's why in total the budget variance is positive in this year for the expenditures. All in all, the fund balance did decrease or increase $42,000, and then $99,000 is the ending fund balance in the fire department fund. Now we'll look at the capital project funds. So the city has two major capital project funds, your permanent improvement revolving fund and pavement management fund, and 5 non-major capital project funds. Main activity this year would be that permanent improvement fund increasing over $1 million in fund balance due to the transfer in from the general fund. And now another slide on, this is the debt service funds here. So the city currently has 3 debt service funds open as of year end. This just points out your cash balance right now, as well as total assets within the fund, and then your remaining debt and maturity on that debt. And then here's your next 10 years of debt service obligation broken out between principal and interest. Moving on now to the enterprise funds. Here we have the water fund, and these next few slides will have kind of the same format for the enterprise fund. So the top half here, we're looking at your operating receipts in orange, operating costs in yellow, and the debt payments here in black. So this is just the last 4 years of that activity. And then this bottom graph here shows your cash balance broken out between unrestricted and restricted cash. And this black line here is your minimum target balance, kind of an industry standard there. The target balance here is 50% of operating costs plus the following year's debt service obligation. So in the water fund here, the cash balance is meeting and exceeding that target balance. And then we also have basically a cash flow, a budget actual cash flow for the water fund here. So top half, you'll see the operating activity, your operating receipts and disbursements, and that operating income there of $150,000. And then also, basically in total, the cash balance in the water fund increased by $145,000 in 2022. That's your ending cash balance at the bottom line. So moving on to the sewer fund here. So once again, operating receipts, costs, and debt payments at the top for the last 4 years, 2019 to 2022. And then down here, this is the cash balance in the sewer fund compared to the minimum target balance, 50% of operating costs, as well as your following year's debt service obligation. So here, the sewer fund cash has been below that target balance for the last 4 years. Then again, kind of a cash flow budget to actual here for the sewer fund. Top half here, you're gonna see the operating activity with with the operating loss right there. Then you have, other activity in the sewer fund would be like, your SAC fees as well as the capital fund transfer dollars. I think it was $130,000 or so into the sewer fund. So after those other SAC fees and transfers in from other funds, the sewer fund, the cash balance did decrease or increase $106,000. And that deficit of $11,000 is the cash balance now in the sewer fund. Right, surface water fund next. So again, operating activity the last 4 years. And then cash balance is here, and the minimum target balance here. So in the surface water fund, the cash balance has been above that target balance for the last 4 years. Recycling fund then here. So one more time, operating activity at the top the last 4 years. And then this is the cash balance here in the recycling fund and that target balance. So the recycling fund has been below that target balance for the last 4 years as well. Next graph here shows the total cash and investment balances broken out between funds for the last 3 years. So overall, that cash did increase this past year. A lot of that due to the, mostly due to the governmental funds and positive fund changes in fund balance or cash in those funds being the main reason. The enterprise funds also all had positive cash flow in the year, mostly due to the water fund. Now ending with some key performance indicators. So here what we're looking at is different financial metrics. The city of Long Lake will always be this black line here, and then we're comparing Long Lake to class 4 cities, which is cities in the state with a population of 10,000 or less. And then the yellow bar there is cities in Hennepin County. So first graph here, we're looking at your tax rate. So the tax rate for Long Lake ended the year at 36%. Really close to the Hennepin County average, looks like a little bit below, and then well below the class 4 city average for the year. Now here we're looking at taxes per capita. So again, Long Lake is that black line here. So in this case for tax per capita, a little bit above the class 4 cities, but below the Hennepin County taxes per capita, are kind of right below the average. And of course, we don't have the 2022 data yet because we'll get that data next year. But and now here we're looking at same format here, but now looking at debt per capita, and then also this graph here is the debt service expenditures as percent of current expenditures. So just what amount of your expenditures are related to debt payments, basically. So in these two categories, debt per capita and debt service expenditures as a percent of current expenditures, below the averages there for class 4 cities as well as Hennepin County. And then here we're looking at current expenditures and capital expenditures per capita. This time Long Lake is the black bar here, and again compared to class 4 cities and cities in Hennepin County. So a little bit above the average in current expenditures per capita, and then pretty consistently below the average in capital expenditures per capita. Capital expenditures, of course, would be volatile depending on when the projects take place. And that's actually all I got for you, so I'll open it up to any questions or comments related to the audit.
We try not to interrupt you while you're speaking there, that lets you have your flow, so, but now is a good chance to ask questions. Folks want to go back to slides and you have specific questions.
I have a question, oh, go ahead.
All right, well, so of course we know that we've always had, well, we need to do something about sewer fund because we're underfunded on that. So we're gonna have to deal with rates at one point. But my question is, looking at the water fund seems to be flush, no pun intended, with cash. And so, 1.2 million in the water fund, I was kind of surprised to see there's that much there. And so it is possible to move money between enterprise funds, isn't it?
Yeah, it is possible, yep.
So not to sort of fix the problem, but at least to sort of do a one-time infusion of cash from one fund to another to sort of make it whole, and then while we try to.
There's a sustainability issue with the sewer fund. We gotta
Right.
get rates
Yeah.
matching the cost of the
Sure,
service. So,
sure,
yeah. But it's,
But I
to
don't
get
want-
it scratch and get something.
Yeah, what I was getting at is we don't necessarily need to have rates correct the problem, but just if we can correct the problem by moving some money around, then we can.
To a sustainable rate that's a
Yeah.
fair rate for the service.
Yeah. So because a few years ago, and Mark, you probably remember this, we also had, I thought the water fund was sort of a concern, but it seems like we have a lot of cash in there.
Yes, so how was it, 200-some thousand was brought in for whack fees too, then, correct?
Oh.
So you're
yeah,
losing
yeah.
cash next year, because you're not gonna have your $1,000, $150,000, $100,000 inflow, that has a surplus now.
Okay,
So you're gonna be cash negative end of this year.
so the helped to bump the water fund and the
To show a profit.
SAC helped the sewer fund, right, so.
To show a profit for the year.
Yeah.
So that's the problem with that one-time influx is, the rates are not sustaining themselves.
Okay. Well, I mean, I guess that we're gonna have to sort of revisit, water and sewer rates again, I guess.
Yeah, I think you're looking at the other stormwater and recycling both. Recycling's starting to come back up. There's a couple of years in there that went negative, but we're not gonna completely zero that one out, but that one's gonna slowly climb out of the hole, break even. And then your surface water is going negative also.
What's gonna be the best time of year to plan for that for next year to start talking about that for budgeting purposes?
I still think we need to look at the rates and do a monthly billing cycle instead of quarterly. And then you can manage the payments a little bit better without huge increases either, you know what I mean, to get this, slowly moving it up, you can slowly move the needle without gouging, to hurry up and get to profit. But at least, and the idea behind this is you want to carry a big enough fund that when you have a project that goes on, you're not bonding and adding it to your debt service, which then you still have to raise rates. So I mean, it's kind of a catch-22 no matter how you want to do it, but, borrowing against each other's funds that are cash negative or losing cash, and they're all going to be negative, and they're all going to have a bond, you're all going to set it, but a dollar amount based on debt and not projects, so.
But still, there was 1.2 million of cash in the water fund at the end of the year, right?
Correct.
Is that what I saw?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a significant amount, I mean.
And so, I mean, if we were talking, say at one point we're talking Grand Avenue, that's a $3 million project. You can just assume $500 to $1 million of that would be water line, if you don't want to bond for it. You know what I mean, so like, we have not been doing the projects that have been on our CIP or our payment management plan, because your funds are not, your rates are not high enough to cover your operations, let alone put on future debt. So, and utility funds need to stand on their own, that's the whole point of those funds, so that it's not based off of taxes, it's based off of users.
So I guess my question was, if John, you're finished, in terms of investment, it seems like we have some cash, and I know it's invested, and I think on page 59, there's some questions about how it's invested. And I guess if you could speak to that a little bit, because I noticed on page 89, some of the debt service and special revenue and capital projects, we got investment earning losses. So how did we get that if we're investing it in fixed certificate of deposits?
Yeah, so the certificate, the brokered CDs have the market value adjustment on them.
Okay,
So that technically ends up in the interest earnings or loss line item.
okay,
So it shows up as a negative revenue, but it's really just a temporary market value
Okay.
adjustment. So it's kind of one of those like accounting reporting things over you're not actually losing that money.
that's
If that
what,
makes sense.
okay, that makes perfect sense. I just wanted,
Yeah, it looks goofy because it shows up as a negative revenue, but that's the way the reporting works, the financial reporting, so.
and so, in terms of what we do have, we're carrying deposits of 2 million, and then, we've got covered by the FDIC. What is that number?
FDIC it's a 250, it says in the report, but it's either 250,000 or 500,000, but any deposit in a bank that's less than 250,000 is automatically insured by FDIC. So like, if you have, let's say you have 2 million in the checking account, 250,000 would be automatically covered by FDIC, and then the remainder is gonna be covered by collateral. So FDIC is basically up to 250,000 for deposit.
And when you're talking, so kind of really what I'm trying to understand, was the loss, but it sounds like that's just the accounting based on market value of the bonds. And how much do we have invested and how much do we have in liquid cash? And I'm not
Off the top of my head, I don't know. the
still
deposits.
looking at this, but I'm just wondering how much do we have so that we're kind of optimizing what we bring in from our investments rather than just.
So in the cash note, it would talk about the deposits versus all the investments. I don't know that number off the top of my head, but
Okay.
this is the total between deposits and investment, that's 7.9 million. That's total cash investments on hand for the entire city. If that makes
Say
sense.
that again?
So that's this 7.9 million in this graph. That's your total cash and investments. So that's your grand total between, your checking account versus all your investments. That's the grand total. And then in the audit report, in the cash note, it'll break out, what are deposits, what are the investments.
Because I think you have, right here, I'm looking on page 59, this number, total investments is 5.8,
Yep.
almost 5.9 million.
Yeah, so then the difference between now and.
So 2 million we have,
Deposits, yeah.
okay, that makes sense because
Yeah.
so, just, thanks.
So are we, just related to that, are we taking advantage of the current treasury rates and CD rates that, because we have a lot of accounts that are kind of rolling like to maturity, right? And then you take it, put it in another account.
Yeah, I cashed CDs, took the penalty and reinvested it.
We did.
Oh,
Yeah,
you did?
put 1.8 million into a 5% 3-month T-bond.
So is that some of the cash that was in the bank?
Yeah, our current checking account runs around 900,000, give or take, depending on how much account, comes in and out with it. So at any time there's opportunities, we do roll it into some interest-bearing account that is safe. I mean, that's.
So we're around 5% on some of those.
Yeah, so I mean, we're gonna break even hopefully in the first year of the penalties we took, but we cash like 0.07, not even 1% CD year, I think it's over 3 to 5 years, so I took all the short-term ones, we're just gonna roll those for the next year at those 3-month marks.
Okay.
Until the rates start adjusting, then we'll look long-term again and later on, but taking full advantage of these short-term,
Okay.
these rates, because you're earning good free money to re-come out and back out, so.
Well, thanks for the follow-up question.
Yeah. Other questions for Tyler? Your thorough as always, so, all right.
I'll make a motion to receive and accept the management letter and annual financial report for the year ended December 31st, 2022, issued by city external auditors, Abdo LLP.
I'll second that. Motion and a second, any further discussion?
Were you gonna do any further presentation?
No, I was making sure this was all setting.
Thank you.
All right, motion second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously.
Thanks, Marilyn. Happy to meet.
See you next year. Okay, items, next item is 8, discuss or consider potential fire department equipment purchases and provide direction to staff. So, Scott?
Yeah, so that'll be the chief and.
All right, Chief, come on up, and Deputy Chief Gondor. Good evening, gentlemen.
Thank you all for coming. We have 3 requests. The first one would be the command vehicle, and I'll let Ryan get into the details on that. We also like to request returning the Ford Explorer to Long Lake.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Thank you. And we'd also like to request permission to sell Rescue 12.
Okay, this is an overview, and Brian will dive into the details then.
I think he's gonna come out and tell you.
Could you speak up just a little bit
Yeah,
before the
turn-
microphone?
Start the mic to running.
Yep, so this is kind of a rundown of what we're asking for. Due to the Warren Council meeting last week, that they voted to not to give back the other Tahoe that was purchased. So this is our request to the city of Long Lake to purchase a brand new Tahoe for use of the Long Lake Fire Department full-time chief. Just kind of give you some background, it would be used as the Command 1 vehicle for Long Lake Fire Department. The current command vehicle is a 2013 Chevy Tahoe, which was agreed upon in the CIP to be replaced January 2023. So it was already approved to get replaced this year. So it not going too far in the background of that. But since that is not an option, that has been taken off the table, we're asking basically to get a replacement from that one. What we would like to do is basically get the same vehicle as what we have as would be Command 2. It just went in service 2 weeks ago. Basically have 2 trucks the same, have them outfitted the same, have them look the same. And being the full-time chief, he deserves the vehicle and not to run around in 2013 kind of beat up end of the road truck that's been having issues.
Cause what have you been driving?
The old Tahoe.
Okay.
That's been in the shop several times since you began here just a couple months ago, right? So.
Yep.
Okay.
So Ryan, I see 52,000 on there, is that?
Yep, so that matches the state bid. It's a dealer on the East Coast that we purchased the other Tahoe from.
And that was 65, right?
No, that was 40, it was just under 49. So it has gone up a little bit from the 22 to 23 year. Not a big jump. But he does have some on order that we can do the same thing where we get the order in, he puts it in with GM, and we can have it drop shipped to Lens and Chev and Chaska, just like the other one.
And you have lights and everything for it too, right?
Yep, so that would be basically, so that's what Command 2 looks like right now. So we basically get it graphic the same, lights the same, all the same equipment to it.
How long would it take to be operational?
From what the communication with the dealer was, if we have about another week window to get the order in. It would be built in July. We would see it probably end of July, beginning of August. Then it's just a matter of getting the equipment, getting it put in, and we can have it in service by September.
Now, does the $52,000 cost, does that include the wrapping and all of the added equipment that goes on the vehicle, or is that?
That's an additional about $18,000 worth of graphics, the lights, all the electronics, and then the custom command box in the back.
Stuff is not cheap, whether it's for a police vehicle or a fire vehicle, those costs add up quickly.
But did you say you had some of those, the lights and some of the other equipment, or would we have to buy that?
That would have to be ordered.
Because of the difference in model years, probably very few parts of that are can hold over to the new one, and, you know, it's, most of that equipment is 10 years old now in the old Tahoe, so. Did you guys, and while you're on this topic, did you get a chance to look at the leasing options, or is that not viable for this kind of single purchase like this?
Leasing option, like some of the neighboring departments do, you have to do a larger quantity to make that work.
Like 25 units?
Yeah, so bigger departments, like I know Chanhassen just got into it, Hopkins does it, but they also do their public works and their police department, so you have to have 20-25 vehicles to make it work.
Sure.
So.
Okay, so we should check to do that.
Yep.
Any other information you want to give us on the Command 1 purchase?
I got 65 in my head, was that an all-in cost maybe, for the other ones?
52 plus 18, is that the?
Yeah, so you're right around 70,
It's outfitted and by.
70 to 71 outdoor.
And how does this, I mean, I know it's bigger than an Interceptor or Explorer, but those are used as well for command vehicles, right?
Correct. This just kind of shows you some of the equipment we have. The Explorer was good, but just the sheer volume of stuff we have in the back.
Size limits what you can put back there.
So this is the custom command box that goes in the back. So you can see the turnout gear, medical bag, fire extinguisher, this CVA air pack, tools. So I mean, it holds a lot of stuff.
And that custom command box, you can't take from the old other Tahoe?
Why not?
Just the dimensions are different.
Okay.
The other one is a little bit narrower, it's not as deep. This one's deeper.
So what would happen with the old command one?
Well, that's what we're kind of here to talk about. We're gonna return the Explorer back to Orno, give that back to them. And then we would like to keep the old Tahoe and have that as our third backup, what we call a shadow vehicle, for our duty officer program. So it's anybody coming in that is new as a trainee, to the program would be able to have that and then shadow one of our line officers, whether it's a lieutenant, chief, captain, where we get a call, they both go to the scene, but they can shadow each other. That would be one use for it, that using personal vehicles right now isn't the best option for that. We would like a kind of a third vehicle. If we have somebody go to the hospital for doing CPR in the back of the ambulance, it would be nice to have a vehicle to go to the hospital, grab them, come back. If people need to go to class, brand new firefighters that come in, they don't have to take their personal vehicle, they can use that, go to class and back. And also with our aging utility 11 that is going to get replaced, but in the meantime, it's out of service again today with some battery starting issues. We have used that Tahoe in its place as a medical response truck. So in keeping that being a little bit bigger than the Explorer, it has more of a purpose to it. We have to put a little bit of money into it to kind of keep it going, but it's still a viable truck.
Yeah, I think having that third shadow vehicle is a good thing, I support that. So we were going to offer Orno to buy the Explorer, and I understand that they said no to that.
Well, I don't think they said no. I think at the end of it, they said it was probably worth like $10,000 or something after that last meeting, from what I remember, 8 to 10,000. I believe that was more than we were willing to, pay for that condition of vehicle. And, so if you're looking at not having to pay for a shadow vehicle, I mean, it's the cost savings there, and just put a little bit of money probably for that.
Well, that's the question. The question I have is, I mean, we said that Tahoe has had issues, it's been in the shop a lot. Would it be better to put some money into that, or buy a used Explorer, either from that one from Orno or from somewhere else for $10,000 or something to have as that third shadow vehicle? It doesn't need to be as good as the two command vehicles.
We also have several trailers at the station, the smaller boat and the six-wheeler and things of that nature, so it's nice to have another truck around for, that has some power.
Right, it's a little bit bigger.
And it kind of in asking for this, we're basically, it's not, it would be good as a backup vehicle, it's not driven every day as a response vehicle, as what the chief would be driving back and forth as a take-home vehicle. But it would be good for a backup vehicle.
What do you think we need to put into the old Tahoe to keep it running? I mean, is it a transmission? Is it the same kind of issues that it's having?
It's more aesthetics. The wheels are rusty, so just trying to make it look aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah. But
just putting different wheels on it, it has some body damage that will get fixed. It happened.
Mechanically though, is it okay?
Mechanically, it seems to be good. Orno has fixed it a couple times, and it seems like it's good for now.
And then another question, would a pickup ever be used as a command vehicle / utility, or, you know, or would you do that? I mean, would there be value in?
Yeah, and we've talked about that. We have utility 21 down to station 2, which is a crew cab long box Ford F-250. It's too big for using it as a response vehicle, as far as take home, put it in your driveway. People can't fit it in their garage. It gets clumsy at times, where more of a large SUV is a better suit.
Because there are short box pickups, you know, that would have about the same wheelbase as a, maybe, you know, well, maybe more of a Suburban, I suppose, but yeah, I was just wondering if that would have any value that we might want to consider for that third vehicle. But, you know, if we already have one that we can fix up, well, I guess it depends what we decide on this one.
Well, there's always squads coming up, you know, in the next couple of years, you know, even if you use that town for a short period of time, like a shadow vehicle, there's gonna be another, you know, police turnover of a vehicle that will have more miles more likely, and, I mean, yeah, they get ran pretty hard as a shadow vehicle, so there's always an opportunity to spend on something a bit newer too.
So let me ask this regarding that one. I had thought that maybe we would try to find a used one. And I went on firetruckmall.com and just kind of looked at some, and, you know, and I don't know what a right fit is, but, you know, you'd see, well, here's 2016 for 39,000, so it's not that much less, I guess, than a new one. I guess you can make that argument. But, you know, there's a number of them on here, but is that just not something you, there's a 2015 for 20,000.
How much is that cargo box? Is it a need, and or is it just better organization? I mean,
It's, we've been without it and we've been with it. It's just, if everything has a home, it's a lot more organized. If you need to go grab it in a hurry, you know where it is. And it also keeps stuff from flying around. Sure.
So if we did get a used, I'm assuming we'd have to add on customize.
Well,
then there's an all. What would the?
Well, these have light, I suppose you rewrap it, you know, but, you know, they come.
Well, I'm just curious, like, if it's 20,000 or 40,000.
Well, you have to put in the, you know, the accessories like he's talking about, regardless, I suppose.
Yeah, mentally I'm just going that 70 number minus that, how many years depreciated?
Yeah.
How far are we with the new versus?
Well, maybe we talk through go on these next couple of items you want to mention and kind of circle back and because I know you wanted to sell a vehicle as well, so give some context to it.
This is our heavy rescue we've had since 2004. Basic reasons, looking at selling it. It's outdated for our current needs. It was purchased in an age when we ran command out of heavy rescue. Used it for rehab at larger fire scenes, auto extrication. Kind of bullet points. With the introduction to Blue Card, which is our new command standard in the area, we run it out of the command vehicles. In the front seat, you've got 1, 2, maybe 3 people in there. You don't run it out of the big vehicle anymore. Hennepin County has introduced and helped fund the LSU trailers. So Mound has one, Excelsior has one, Rogers. So I have them in the area, they're on our box alarm, so if we get a house fire, this is already coming, so we don't use it for that anymore. The extrication tools have been pulled off because they're older, they are low pressure. They won't cut the new metals of today, the boron, the titanium. So it was an NFPA safety thing that we took them off. So basically it comes down to it's a big people mover with a light tower. So my recommendation is to get evaluated, try and find out the value of it, and then look at sending it to auction.
Is there even a market for it if it's sort of outdated?
There is other departments outstate could use it. It could be repurposed for something else on another department. It's just our current needs on how we run and how we do stuff. It sits a lot. It doesn't get driven as much as it should. I hate to see that, that big and nice of a truck just.
Do you have an estimated range for what it might go for at auction?
Similar vehicles, if you look, online, they range anywhere between 80,000, 90,000 on the low end to, 150 to 160 on the high end. So it still has some value. That's why it kind of pains me to see it sit all the time. It hardly gets used.
What would defer some of the costs for the,
Right.
Well,
How
it's
would
a
that-
fractional, but our cost in that isn't very much.
oh, what is it?
It's only 4%. Well, minus the time share.
Yeah, so we might get 20,000 out of it or something.
It was at 76.07 for 6 years.
So I have two questions. Well, A, might Orno want this, might they want to buy us out on this? And B, what does the contract require, us to do on this kind of decision?
And I was looking for that today, it does not, mention the process of selling, only at the end of the contract, how things get
Divided up, yeah.
But over the course of time, we sold and replaced, through history. So-
Right, but that's usually been when we're buying new equipment, right? That's part of the CIP process, isn't it? When we're buying something that we're replacing, so we sell what we're replacing, or trade it in, or put it to auction.
Yeah, so essentially right now, we're taking a piece of equipment that'll probably have its highest value in this current market and taking advantage of that.
Right, okay, and it's based on what the fire department is telling us, a recommendation, right? We're not unilaterally deciding.
And, this was purchased in 2004 for around $228,000, and they're gonna, if you can get 150, 160, it would be amazing, right, over the course of time. Orno's share of it's 76% or so, so I mean, I think the recommendation would be ask Orno if they want to buy at market rate and or want their cash once it goes to auction. I think that would be the best approach first, and then, give them that option if they're really wanting, buy it for the percentage difference. Give Long Lake and Medina their share of cash and then.
But either way, well, if it goes to auction, then Orno just gets their cash out of that, and then we can use the rest to put towards additional vehicles that we want to buy, right?
Correct, yeah.
Can I ask a clarifying question? Is this similar to a vehicle that we have purchased recently, like in terms of function? No? Oh, okay.
No, it's kind of its own beast.
Okay. I know you said utility and rescue could be interchanged, but this does look different from what,
This is, it has lots of storage on it, but it has no water, it has no phone. You open up each one of those compartments and there's just storage. And you can walk through the side and come out the back. So you can haul a lot of people in it, it's just.
it's a people mover.
It's a people mover, yeah.
And was there a third item you wanted to bring up tonight? Was that?
Or was it?
The Explorer.
Yeah, okay. Got it. All right, so, we've got the option in front of us with the purchasing 2023 Tahoe. We could use some funds from the sale of the other large vehicle for that. And then what would be the balance, Scott, as far as where would other funds come from for purchasing if we decide to do that?
I believe
there's around, now I have to double check, around 200,000 or so in our special fire fund. So, $50,000 difference, maybe give or take, if we got $15,000 for our share, would be enough, $50,000 to cover Tahoe. If that's what you're asking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions for staff on that?
Yeah, I think it's just emphasize the mechanics of the contract and double checking, just making sure that if there is a process, we need to ask for them if they want to buy it out.
Yeah, and I've read through it, I didn't see it, I might double check with the attorney, but I think just in good faith, you just ask them if they want to purchase the rest of the share out,
Yeah, so I think that's key, just making sure that we're going with the mechanics of the contract and doing this in good faith with partners.
Yeah, and then, you know, our contract says, at the end of the contract, the buyout costs are based on the purchase price, but in this case, I would say determine the value of it, and then offer, you know, order to buy, based on that value, buy, pay out our part of that.
And you did already get a quote for like, what it would be about? Just that one?
No, you need to.
Yeah, we need to get that evaluated. I was just going by what we saw online as the other stuff for sale.
Oh,
So it kind of gives you a range.
do we have a third party that evaluates that?
Where's some honest people in there?
An auction.
Just,
Yeah, we have to get a, like, auction company to come in and give us a value.
okay.
Very refreshing.
So you're not gonna be back next week, you're asking for something else, are you guys?
I'm gonna take next week off.
No, that's me.
So the engine that we approved last week, that's gonna replace engine 12?
Engine
11. And will we also then sell that when we get the new engine? And
Yep,
I
we
don't
do the
want-
same thing, send it to auction, and everybody would get a piece of the pie.
Right, but we won't do that until first quarter next year, right? And then, but the rescue that we approved last week, or 2 weeks ago, that's, the utility that's replacing is gonna be repurposed, right? Or are we getting rid of that then too?
No, we're gonna get rid of that.
Oh, okay, alright. Probably doesn't have much value to it, right? But maybe some.
Yeah, it all depends. You send it to auction, it's all great.
My point is, we're gonna be selling, getting rid of
Three.
heavy rescue plus 2 other vehicles here in the next year.
Yeah, it just has some value, we just don't know how much.
Right. Yeah, I'm not that concerned about what value it has, I just wanted to clarify that we are turning over vehicles here.
And just to reiterate, they're back again, because we didn't expect this to be an issue when we had this agreement with Orno from back in late summer or fall of last year. We buy one vehicle under the contract, and one vehicle one was purchased separately. They agreed to purchase that, and loan back to the fire department. When they did that, we didn't have a fire chief at the time, because they just hired a fire chief. And so we, once we did hire a full-time fire chief, we made that request again here just a few weeks ago at the last fire advisory board meeting. We also in motion with Orno City staff to arrange for that vehicle to come to use or be placed in the use of one of the fire departments. And at the Orno City Council meeting last week, the Orno Council voted against that, or essentially did not approve that use of the vehicle. So they're using it themselves, I guess, maybe for their own fire chief to commute to work or whatever under his contract. So that's why we're in this position now to get another vehicle for our actual fire chief. So, anybody want to make a motion on this one, or have a direction for staff?
Would that be 3 separate motions?
I don't know that
Or just
it's-
one?
I think it's
The purchase would be the emotion, the other parts would be just direction.
Okay.
But yeah.
I can make a motion to, do you mind reading the specifications up again? Make a motion to approve the purchase of a 2023 Chevy Tahoe PPV Black. Should we have
That's a good quote.
Yeah, do not
Very similar.
exceed or,
Yeah, so that's what we pay the dealer, there's no tax.
and then do you want a motion to approve any cost to outfit it and have the wrapping put on as well?
Well, I would say let's wait until we see the numbers come in. I don't want to put do not exceed or anything on there, because
It would be similar to,
it was around 19,000 I think last time it was quoted.
yeah, so it'd be similar to the
Depending
last
if
one.
you still want to run draft, there's all kinds of.
And those costs have come out of the operating budget, or the capital improvement budget for vehicle accessories.
This will just we'll make sure we just take care of this out of Long Lake side and not run it through any operational budgets of the department.
All right, so
Were you done
Councilman
with your
Qualley,
motion?
would you,
Is that, good enough motion? Is that,
that
did you want to put a dollar on it?
Do you want it to be do not exceed a certain dollar amount? Or do, is,
I don't personally, if it's $1 off, you're gonna not get the truck, I don't think it's worth putting $1 on it. You know, because if we have a do not exceed of that $1 amount, it happens to have something
I was
about
gonna
fee.
put
Yeah.
a range, but no, it seems like you know what the costs are.
Quote is good.
Yeah,
Based, you could just say based on the quote shared.
based on the quote shared with us.
I'll second that.
All right, motion and second, any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right, thank you, so we'll.
And just to clarify, this is coming out of Long Lake's budget, not the partnership.
Correct.
CIP.
We make the motion for the selling the restoration.
I would say this would be a direction,
Alright, so
for staff to get unless you really don't necessarily worry about what the evaluation is, and you just wanna give a motion to pursue, path of auction after, or, give order option, and then send auction.
well, direction would be for Ryan to determine the value of it, fair market value, offer it to Orno, for their percentage, whatever, however the percent rate works out, if they want to buy it. If they don't, then it goes auction. That would be, and again, it's based on fire recommendation. And if it goes to auction, then Orno gets, whatever money they had in,
76%.
whatever their percentage.
76%.
Okay, so more of a staff direction than that one.
And then the Explorer.
And would it just, would we decide to get that back to Orno, is that kind
Yeah,
of?
but what's the time for that?
Yeah, you tell us what the appropriate time would be, would it probably be not until we receive delivery of the chief's new vehicle, right, to buy it on the safe side?
So, and what was that, August, you said, or is it?
So it would be safe side to say it this fall. So it would be September, October, somewhere in that time frame.
Okay. And I understand Orno wants to work on some, a contract for that, or something to just ensure that it's insured and the accident costs are covered, and things like that, so probably we've paid for any accidents that that it's had. So staff direction that, just to work with Orno when they reach
Yeah,
out
so
to
that
them.
was, that is what they denied. They're gonna want the same thing for that, Explorer as they did for the Tahoe. They want a use agreement, and that's what they denied for the Tahoe.
So, okay, so in light of that, do we just wanna give it back now and then use the old Tahoe, or,
What's the right now?
when you
Well, the Explorer right now is not even in service anymore, correct? Or is it actually, could be in service?
It could be in service, but it hasn't been stripped all the way out.
And okay, but majority service, where it wouldn't take much to do it tomorrow, or is it something you guys feel you need?
It would be nice to have as a backup vehicle, just in case.
In case the tower goes down.
Just in case command one goes on,
Well, why don't we see that if that's something we can work out with Orno, we're open to working out with them, but if it doesn't succeed, then we'll have to.
But we should take care of the issues with Command One. Is that Command One is the old one?
Yes.
We should take care of the issues with that as quickly as we can. And then maybe, because it's gonna take some time, this agreement go back and forth anyway, maybe if we things get taken care of in the next month, and it's reliable, then we just say, okay, you can have the Explorer back, then we don't have to, because it's such a short period of time, and we're gonna go back and forth,
I think
multiple times trying to get this agreement, right, put in place. So I don't know, I guess I would suggest that let's see what Tahoe needs, the old Tahoe, and take care of those needs as quickly as we can. I guess that would be another direction, right?
Yeah, that's not too much, we'll just, I wanna work with them to get estimates and see where it's gonna come out of the budget. That's my biggest concern.
All right, anything else, gentlemen?
No, thank you very much, appreciate it, appreciate your support.
Sure. And stick around too long, so that we have, next item is also regarding fire department matters, so Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
So Scott, or quality of it, this particular purchase will not go on the CIP then. Whereas we talked about for approvals from last week, since those won't be here till 2024, we can put them on the CIP for Orno to review, and if they choose not to.
Yeah, I would say this one is gonna be, knowing that it was on the 22 CIP.
Oh, that's right.
It was kind of, you know, adjusted accordingly, and then now it's not on there, so it kind of was approved in 22, but not 23, so, I think it would be just, you know, if it's the council's direction, just to have it 100% ownership, and we'll just not worry about the 24 CIP.
Okay, move on to item number 9, this updates and discussion regarding fire department matters. Maybe I'll kick it off with just an update or two, and those that are aware, a week ago today, we had a attorney that we hired outside of, or above and beyond the services of our city attorney, who sent a letter to the city of Orno regarding breaches of the contract for fire service that we have with them, that's been in place since 2002. Includes the city of Medina as well, so all 3 cities are part of this contract. We've had a lot of debate amongst the city council about this topic over the last several months. It was where we began when we had our public open house in November. We had several members of the community and attendees, including attendees at that event, that approached us and really gave us guidance on looking into this further regarding potential contract violations that were occurring. So we did that. We hired an outside law firm to do a review along with our assistance of our own city attorney, and that was done. And ultimately, based on the legal advice we received, we decided to send that letter, but not after quite a bit of discussion, debate, several weeks. For me personally, what changed my mind was the action that the city of Orno took in February regarding the Relief Association and comments that were made during their council meeting in February about transitioning firefighters from the Lonely Fire Department to the Orno Fire Department in 2024. When in fact, the contract that we have with them, it goes through the end of 2025. There's, in fact, will be a Lonely Fire Department for the next, just under 3 years, when that may occur in February. So how are we to provide, do our duty to provide fire services to our communities if our firefighters are being transitioned to a different fire department with, in that case, or at that time, just under 3 years left in the contract. So that was a big turning point for me personally, and just realizing that we needed to, we're believers in the contract that our predecessors signed 27 years ago, and following that contract, and that's what we're trying to do as the city of Glen Lake. So, there's comments made earlier about being a bad move or some kind of negative move, but in my book at least, we were given no choice by the city of Orno then to send that letter. We were doing our due diligence as good stewards of that contract and good stewards the fire protection services our cities agreed to provide to not only Orno, but to Medina, and we also have a separate contract in which we provide fire service to Minnetonka Beach. So that's simply all we're trying to do is provide safe, good, quality fire services to the community served by the Lone Lake Fire Department. So that is the basis for that letter being sent. Others may have comments they want to make along those lines, but I know we didn't take that issue lightly. We've had a lot of discussions about it with our attorneys, and ultimately we decided that we had no other choice than to do that. But anyone else want to touch on that matter specifically, or anything I missed on that one?
I just want to echo, I mean, I appreciate the public comments that were made, but the notice of breach is to ensure public safety, because if our firefighters leave, we have a problem. And yes, Orno, along with Medina, Minnetonka Beach, is under contract for 2 plus almost 3 more years. So we take that very seriously. I mean, that is our obligation to uphold the contract and provide that public safety to all of those communities. This isn't just Long Lake and Orno, this is several others. So I think you know, as Mayor Minor said, we deliberated a lot on that letter, but I think ultimately we have the communities and the safety at the forefront in making the decision to send that letter. What it does in negotiations, I don't know, but we are trying to ensure the public safety is upheld.
So I'll share my thought process on that. I was hesitant actually to send that letter initially because Charlie and I had been on the negotiating team with Orono from last summer. Throughout the summer, we met weekly with them, and we were working towards an agreement that was kind of like a JPA or district, operating under this independent fire board, and I thought we were making good progress on that. Got to know the two council members there that we were working with, and we, as I said, we met with them weekly, probably for 3 hours at a time, and then that was cut short in September, and then they just gave us that buyout offer, which then led to our open house about the current status and what our options were, and so we provided a response to them in early January, and since that time. I've been trying to get back together with those negotiators to talk with our response to them. Also to talk about, there was some firefighter proposals that were also generated during that time. And multiple times I asked to get together and the response was no. They wanted to wait until they did their needs assessment, which is coming up now in later May or June. And so in light of that lack of wanting to continue negotiations, then I kind of was in favor of not only the letter, but also taking care of the current needs of the firefighters, because that's what's really most important here, to give them the tools that they need to continue to do the work that they do. And so, I mean, I'm still open to, I left it that way, so I'm open to continue the conversations with Orono, and I'd like to think that they will come back and talk about a solution that works. And but in the meantime, I agree. Then I was kind of in favor of this letter as well, just to sort of show our position on some of the actions that they've been taking.
Yeah, I think I'm going to echo what everybody else just said, but I think just I don't know if people realize just how much effort Charlie and John has put into the negotiations, and it's countless hours, a very good faith effort, and it's not been very fruitful, in no part because, not because of the effort Long Lake has put forth with this. And I think, as some people have said, this is a community. It's Long Lake, Orono, and the surrounding communities. We got to be thinking about this together. And so I too was hesitant to do that letter, but at the end of the day, when you put effort, and it's not being reciprocated, and there are breaches in the contract, you need to let the opposing party know we're listening, and this is what needs to happen.
And I will say, I think the letter, I was in favor of the letter because it put Orono on notice. It let them know that the activities outlined in the letter were, let's say, frustrating or interfering with our obligation to provide services under the contract. It was noticed that those activities that continued could undermine our obligation to fulfill the contract, and it's just a notice letter so that they're aware of those activities and the consequences those activities could have if they continue, and the consequences or the interference with providing, or the, let's say, the interference with public safety.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing is public safety. This isn't a game. We have needs, I think we've met, and the last couple of weeks that we've had meetings, we've met those needs. And I think just looking forward, as Long Lake and as a fire department, we need to look forward and figure out what we're going to do. And we hope Orono comes alongside us. And we're here to negotiate and to be part of those conversations. So just want everybody to know that.
And I would echo that in terms of the community. I hope there is a solution going forward. To echo what Todd said, it's silly to have multiple fire departments that are so close, and we could share resources, and I think that would be the best solution for the community as a whole.
Yeah, I think Great comments, everybody, great points. And just to reiterate, there's a few folks reach out to me that hadn't had a chance to completely read the letter. It is not we're not filing any lawsuit at this time. There's no court action associated with the letter at this time. It's more of a, kind of a cease and desist type letter, warning to stop violating the contract. If you don't, we will have to take further legal action, which we certainly hope we don't have to do. We hope the letter makes its point and puts a stop to the contract, the contract violation. So, just want to make that part clear. But
Can we make a comment about this? Is it possible?
sure, just a couple comments, but you have to approach the mic here to do that. And of course, just state your name and address, please.
Yeah, thank you. Kim Carcelo, 261 Signet Place in Orono, and I perhaps should have said this earlier. But I just want to tell you that I think the citizen sentiment that you're hearing from us is not recognized by the Orono Council. As we try to engage, we're ignored or dismissed, and this suggests that our mayor exhibits a lot of characteristics of bullying. And now many of us believe that this council is over their skis. I don't think Orono really understands what they're having to do to build this department. And as citizens, we've been unable to influence the way the council is managing this. You, as a municipality, have a different type of leverage, and I ask that you continue to challenge Orono Council in a very careful, tactically and strategic way, knowing who you're dealing with, to confront the bullying tactics of the mayor of Orono. And I appreciate the time taking it out of order, should have said it in public comments. Thank you.
Okay. So beyond the letter topic, we touched on this briefly in the work session, but introduced the concept of having sort of a follow-up public house by the city of Long Lake. To a lot has changed since November. There's a lot of things that some of them we maybe did expect, some of those we didn't expect to change since December. So kind of the concept would be to give our community, Long Lake residents and other residents served by the Long Lake Fire Department, some updates as to what's been going on over the last several months, and maybe trying to do that. And I think it's premature to set an exact date this evening without having staff do some research into facility availability and that sort of thing. But maybe the week of May 15th or perhaps the week of May 22nd, something along those lines is a concept that I want to bring up, and the thoughts on that will be welcome. And we can work with staff to nail down the date if that's something we hopefully decide we want to proceed with.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Like you said, a lot's happened since our November open house, and I think we can bring everybody up to speed on a lot of those activities, and then also just have another Q&A session with the public. So I'm in favor of doing that either at the same location, Jeanette or Scott, if we can do it there, or maybe St. George's, or we talked about having, I guess those might be two possible locations. And I'd be in favor of doing it the week of May 15th. I was thinking of like that Thursday, the 18th, or is that too soon?
We would need to check with the venue. Yeah. I would advise against a Thursday if possible, just because I have to double check St. George's schedule. I'd like to approach them.
You know what day of the week we did the last one?
I think it was a Thursday, but there's a conflict that traditionally is on the schedule at St. George's. That it doesn't have to be a Thursday.
No, but
Yeah, so maybe just identify some dates that work with them and share them with the council and kind of see the majority of us will be available.
My only concern with a date the week of May 15th is that is very close to today. That's 13 days from today. And that is
just getting the word out.
Getting the word out, first of all, organizing and booking a location, and to follow that, then getting the word out, setting times, etc. I feel like an extra week might be very helpful in the planning of that.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I know we were fortunate to back up as the week of May 29th.
When is Memorial Day?
May 29th.
Right. seem to be careful to stay away from Memorial Day, it's not too close that weekend, so. Yeah,
Well, we don't have to make a decision
Yeah.
right now, right? I mean,
Let me work on availability
Okay.
and come back to
Maybe.
you with some ideas.
Okay.
Right.
But I would be interested, I mean, just having heard some of the public comment here tonight, I would be interested to know, once we do set a date and a location, if there's resident opinion on how we best get that information out there, because I want to ensure that not just Long Lake residents know about this, that Orno residents know, Medina residents know, Minnetonka Beach residents know, because we service all of those communities, and you're all welcome to come and ask questions, hear our transparency. I mean, we've been an open book throughout this whole process, so I would welcome that input from our neighboring communities on how to let them know about it as well. Not to make it a headache for you, but.
And my biggest challenge with that, of course, is that we have access to the data that's been provided to us, but we don't have any control over our neighboring communities and whether they're willing to spread the message by their own communications or not. We can certainly ask them to, and welcome them to do so, but we do have to be respectful of another, our involved jurisdictions, policies with regard to, whether they would feel comfortable putting out the same message for us that we would put out on our listserv. But our listserv does hit a lot of folks, again, that are not necessarily Long Lake residents. It really does hit a lot of folks. We can put the same kind of, again, more time actually helps a little on the publication front as well, if we wanna ask the Laker Pioneer maybe to help put the word out. So a little more time offers a little more opportunity for ways to get the word out.
Okay, all right, well, thanks, Janet, for looking at that and keep us posted on what some viable dates might be in those weeks that we pointed out. Okay, yeah, beyond that, I know tomorrow is the next future fire services planning, group meeting.
Oh, by the way, I
Yeah.
invited the Mound Mayor and council member, I can't remember her name, Larson?
Paula?
Yeah,
Yeah.
to the future fire services meeting tomorrow morning.
You know, and I think we talked about that, I was gonna bring that up, noticing it so more of us can go, because I think it would be a quorum, because both of you are going.
Yeah, we go.
And so if we could notice the next one, we talked about that.
Yeah.
We'll have that date
Jeanette,
locked
so-
up in the morning, but it'll probably,
Yeah.
probably be in July.
So that, because I would be interested in attending.
So I'm just curious, do people know what the future fire services is?
How do you explain that?
I think it's an important thing.
Yeah.
Well, I was just gonna say, it's a group, it's about 9 communities, surrounding communities,
11 fire departments and cities.
Yeah. And we've been meeting for the last several years about quarterly, and to talk about what the future of fire protection is gonna look like, and how we can all work together to sort of help shape that. And generally, it's in the context of a district or districts. But we've been meeting now for a while, and as I was mentioning, Deirdre and I met with the Mound Mayor and one of the council members a few months ago, and they haven't been part of it, but they seem to be open to it. So I sent an invite to them, so we'll see if they show up. But it's all the surrounding communities. Actually, Orno has now attended on the last couple, but that's been more recent.
Tomorrow the guest speaker is the new fire chief of the combined Hamel Fire Department. So Chief Jeff Fleur will be there kind of speaking about how he brought those 2 fire departments together to form a district and give us an update on that. So it'll be interesting to hear more about.
And I think we talked about this earlier, but is there now kind of a formal agenda to each of these and some sort of minutes kept as well now?
Yes.
Or recording?
Yep. For sure minutes, I'm not sure it's audio recorded or not, but for sure minutes. Yeah, so we can, I know John and I get those, we can certainly share those, have staff, we can share those with you if you wish. So.
Are they public, can we publish them on the, so for general publication on the website?
It wouldn't be appropriate to do that without the consent of all the participating cities.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Similar to the fire advisory subcommittee, without the consent of all the participating parties.
Okay.
And we do have minutes for worked with our time saver secretarial service to start having a little slightly more higher level of detail needs for the fire advisory subcommittee minutes, so. And she worked on her first set for us today, and got those, and I think a draft of that went out maybe for your review.
Right, yeah, that's been great, so appreciate that. Okay, any other comments or items that council or staff will bring up on this item? Manager, quite a bit of fire department talk tonight. All right, so with that, we'll move on to other business, and that's where we just go on the council table here, so to speak, and see if council members have anything to bring up. So Councilman Paul.
Nothing further from me.
I'm good, thank you.
So I brought up this possibility of getting some grant assistance for the street sweeper from the watershed district, but I guess that's not done with the Minnehaha Creek.
Correct.
But there was some more language on that email I saw. Was there?
But partnering with other project-related items such as working over park, et cetera.
Okay, but not.
This stuff that was already on our radar.
Yes. Okay.
But not for equipment purchases at this time.
So.
We tried.
Well, apparently Purgatory Creek Watershed District does it with their city, so it was worth a try. But my street was done, so thank you, Sean.
Yes, this Long Lake Street's been swept very well last week or two. I was there. Like a tornado's coming, but then it's just Sean. Yes, that's great.
That's all I have.
Okay. I don't have anything else to have tonight, so.
I just had some park board related topic real quick, two of them. One, we should probably set a meeting. Perfect. And then two, I was contacted by the CEO, and she's, I guess, a speech therapist, of a company called Smarty Symbols. She said their mission is to break down communication barriers for non-speaking children, and they've been partnering with organizations and cities across the country to place these signs on parks and playgrounds. And I know Jeanette sent an email to all of you, but it's kind of a visual way for kids who maybe have different communication styles to still interact with other kiddos on the playground. So thought maybe it'd be something we could talk about at a park board meeting, and if the park board feels that we could pursue it, we could then bring it to council for consideration and vote. Whether we want to try it just at one park to start, and then maybe see if it's sort of like a donation thing going forward to get into the other parks. But I just like the idea of the inclusivity on our playgrounds.
Sure. The park board identify the best appropriate park to start with. Or
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it looks like they start at $1,200. They're either wood or plastic, and they can be attached to just 4x4 posts or actual metal fencing.
Nice. Good idea. Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
That's all I have.
Scott?
I do not have anything.
Jeanette?
Councilmember Joyce.
Yeah.
Do you want to give anybody a little bit of a heads up on our recent meeting?
Sure. Yeah, so Jeanette and I were tasked with working with my contact, who's a freelance creative designer, to design a new Long Lake City logo. So she actually, her name is Sherry, she presented 18 options to us last week. She was busy, and we identified, well, right off the bat, there's one amazing one that we love and we will push hard for. We will show you at least two options, but I think Sherry, she nailed it. We were very intent on, we gave her all the background of the city, we gave her historic photos. And I said, Jeanette, let's make sure we get her a picture of the red pier at Nelson Lakeside Park. And I won't give it away, but she did some cool things with some actual photography that we shared with her. So, long story short, I think we're going to present that at the first meeting in June, right?
That is a hope, yes.
So,
Okay.
We're very excited.
Teaser,
exciting little teaser.
It's fantastic. There's just, I mean, the one that grabbed us right away, I think, I wouldn't want to speak for you, but I know I saw it and immediately I went, that one.
And it's round, isn't that important that it be round?
It is round.
It is round.
Yeah. And she didn't know that was important.
And why is that important again?
Things when you're making documents, logos work best with document content when they fit into squares or rectangles. But not with a lot of drop down this and drop down that. So, yeah, it is the most efficient use of space, from a usability perspective. But it's also just fantastic, so.
We're drinking, you know, city merch,
Merch,
popcorn
yeah.
days and.
Related to that, we had our banners here that we've had every summer that was done by a local designer. And, they're starting to get a little weathered maybe, and I was gonna say, hey, do we wanna do another round of banner design? And maybe we would wanna have the new logo on there or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's that?
Gotta wait.
I already thought about that.
For the new logo.
Yeah.
Just wait for the new logo, yes.
That's what John said.
No, but
Yeah,
that's what I'm
yes,
saying.
yes,
But in the meantime, I guess we can use those banners another year, another summer, but.
Well, you may be.
Yeah.
How, I did think about this, how does that work with our park signs? Then have the overlay.
That,
Let's address.
slow phase in,
Okay.
slow phase in.
I was gonna say screw it, you went on.
Well, that's what I was gonna say is, I mean, maybe if we are able to generate something of a size that we can make it look the top of it, we can look at it.
All right, anything else, Jeanette? That was a really good one.
Thank you for that.
Along with that, at the next meeting, I will be chatting a little bit about web updates, just to seek council support for moving forward with a new website.
Okay, great. I'll hear more about that. It'll be a great project. All right, if there's no objection, I'll adjourn the meeting by general consent. Hearing none, it is adjourned at 8:26 p.m.
Tired yet, Josie?
We keep like,
I'm with you.
spreadsheets of the hours of completion.
Jay, I'm Josie with the search band at Fiscal.
Oh, hi, yeah, it's fine to meet you.
Yes, you too. I got your email, just log on. Sorry, I've got.
Sure, yeah, what about my wife's criteria? Yes, she's gonna win that lawsuit. That was their chance to get rid of it, and who knows what's gonna happen from this point on. Whether we go to mediation with her or not, she does, but I can say from experience, mediation with Orno is pointless. I've been there numerous times, they never want to acknowledge facts or deal with the reality of what they could people. So I know my wife's standing tall, going, you know what, they don't come across, and we're gonna get witnesses and go to trial.
Survey posted on the public on there,
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Mostly that, I would really like the council to be empowered to make a decision. The wait for resident input, you're gonna get so much input. There's no way to limit that.
Folks, Turbine guy gonna sign off on a council meeting and actually listen to the residents.